You've made a fool of me, but broken hopes. And hey woman, you're blue because you don't have anyone else to use. I turned on the radio to a late-night discussion show about Bigfoot and UFOs. I was bored of hearing the same song for the past few hours. Why? It reminded me too much of the woman I'd left. Actually, I didn't simply depart. I rushed away. Let me start at the beginning. I'm Stan Shipman, and I've been married to Lucy Dalton for 5 years. We were high school sweethearts and married immediately after graduation. I thought we were soulmates. A big mistake. I am a welder. A trait I learned from my father and have practiced since I was a child. After high school, I soon obtained my welding qualification and began working. Earning decent money, even underwater welding. I made enough money to pay for Lucy's college, and she now works as a paralegal at a downtown law company. So why am I running? It is because of Lucy and her companion. Lucy was pleasant and cheerful when we were younger, but things have changed. I adored her and gladly paid for her college. She surprised her parents by completing the task without incurring any debt. However, once she started working at McMaster and Fredericks, things started to go wrong. Her female co-workers had a negative influence on her, so she started attending their gatherings. It started off as just Wednesday nights, but it quickly turned into Wednesdays and Fridays, ruining our date nights. When I reminded her, she persisted on going out with her pals, suggesting we go out on Saturdays instead. Her late nights became worse, and she refused to return my calls. Always goes to voicemail. I finally had enough, so I sat Lucy down for coffee one Saturday morning. We need to talk, I said. What is this about? She asked. Your Friday night parties. We used to have date evenings, but now you stay out until nearly 4 in the morning. What's happening? I barely see you. I just go out with the girls from work to relax and have a few drinks, she explained. We sometimes dance in the nearby clubs. 1 a.m. Are you seeing anyone else? I asked. No. She exhaled. We sometimes go out to eat afterward, but I pressed until 4 a.m. She stated that this happened on occasion. This has to end. You are either my wife or their buddy. I feel as if you are taking advantage of me. I said. I apologize. She said. I will quit going out on Fridays if you want. That sounds like an excellent concept. I suggested we spend time together. She agreed and took a shower while she was away. I installed a phone tracker on her phone for my own peace of mind. Things were well for a few weeks, but she quickly reverted to her old ways. I used the tracker to see where she was after work on Friday. I washed up and went to the pub where she and her companions were. I observed her in a group conversing with a guy. They didn't notice me until I arrived at their table. What do you want? The guy inquired. I had just gotten home from work and decided to get a beer. I said, surprise, Lucy. Don't you plan to present me to your friends? Lucy seemed humiliated. Everyone, this is Stan, my spouse. Stan, this is everyone. Hello, everyone. I replied sarcastically, seeing she was not wearing her wedding ring. I removed the rings so I wouldn't lose them, she explained. Sure. I thought the person next to her got up and introduced himself as Jake Rollins. We worked a lot together, he replied with a sneer, attempting to frighten me with his handshake. I squeezed his hand harder until he was in pain. I was about to invite your wife to dance, if you don't mind, he said. Is this true? I asked Lucy. She nodded. I regarded it as a chance to learn more, so I said, go ahead. But remember, she's my wife and I'll be watching. As Lucy stood to dance, I took Jake's seat to have a beer. Most of the others had already departed. You do not own her. You know what the girl next to me said while I waited for my beer. So you are? I asked Marie. Maria Compton. I have been coaching Lucy at work. So, Marie, why do I need your advice? I asked. I am Lucy's buddy and mentor. She boasted that the firm's partners have huge plans for her. I did not like her attitude. I never claimed Lucy belonged to me, yet I am her husband. Stan, please let me know if anything damages our marriage. Lucy needs to broaden her horizons. All she knows is college. She needs to extend her wings, spread her wings. Is there anything else she needs to spread? I asked. There's no need to be unpleasant, but there are probably other things she should experience. You will gain in the long run. How? I asked. Perhaps she will learn something she can bring back to you, Marie stated. You surely pick up new talents at work, right? No, Marie. I go to work, do my best, get paid, and return home. I love Lucy and would never harm her or our marriage. Maybe you should extend your horizons, she remarked with a smirk. I take my wedding vows seriously, I explained. I suppose Lucy agrees. I don't notice any rings on your fingers. Have you ever been married? She replied several times. Let me guess. Did your husband catch you cheating? I asked. She shrugged. Yeah, so I do anything I want. Well, Lucy is busy. And I expect you to respect that. I said. She chuckled. Yeah, you keep thinking that just now. Jake and Lucy returned from the dance floor. I stood up so Lucy could sit between me and Marie, preventing Jake from sitting close to her. So Lucy tells me you are a welder, Jake stated. How much does a welder make? $15 per hour. Underwater work often costs $35 per hour or more. Didn't Lucy tell you that I paid for her college tuition? I said. So you are repaying her student loans? He asked. No, I paid her tuition beforehand. I also purchased her a new Toyota. I remarked. Damn, I had no idea welders made that much. I must be in the wrong business. However, you get a lot of women on the side when you're out of town, he asked. No. When I'm away, I work 16-hour days. As I told Marie, I take my wedding vows seriously. I said, you sure do, Jake replied smugly. I was becoming annoyed. I turned to Lucy. Have you driven here? Yes, she responded. Good. I've had enough fun tonight. I'm going home. I expect you to join me. As I got up, I unintentionally spilled a cold beer over Jake's lap. Oops. Sorry. You need to go home and change. He appeared enraged and ready to fight. Go ahead, I said. He saw the look in my eyes and drew away. That was a smart move. I turned to Lucy. Are you coming? I'm right behind you. She spoke quietly. Marie glared at me. I walked away without looking back. Lucy got home a few minutes after me. I got a beer and waited for her in the living room. She barged into her face and read. What the hell was that? She demanded. You have embarrassed me. Did I? I responded. Are you following me? She asked. I shake my head. No. I only wanted a beer and was startled to find you with work colleagues, I confessed. Realizing I'd lied to her for the first time. I felt humiliated. Imagine how I felt when you took off your wedding band. As if you were ashamed to be married to me, right? Her face softened and she sat next to me. Of course not, she replied. I work with these individuals, particularly Jake and Marie. I inquired. What is her role? She's above me. She mentors me at work. Does this include spousal advice? I asked. What do you mean? While you were dancing, she stated. You need to broaden your horizons. Be honest. Have you cheated on me? No, she spoke while avoiding eye contact. I wondered if she was lying. You know I can't forgive it, I told her. Marie suggested you might cheat while you're abroad. Lucy asked. Do you think I do? No, she replied gently. I have never cheated and never will. I love you too much. When I'm away, I'm too busy working. I understand, she said. I have seen your payroll. You paid for my college, purchased my car, and paid our bills. I've been saving to make a down payment on a property. Marie's advice is ridiculous. You did not like her, did you? Lucy inquired. No, I do not trust her or Jake. Did you know she has been divorced twice for cheating? Lucy had a surprised expression. How do you know this? She told me. I believe they are up to something and trying to bring you down. You haven't done anything wrong, right? No, Stan, I have not. Then what? I enjoy going out with them, she admits. I enjoy being with you. I said. Can you spend more time with your husband? Sure, she stated this while hugging me. I apologize. It's okay, I told her. I've always wanted 3 things: to marry you, to be the best welder, and to start a family with you. She smiled. Well, you have the first 2. Would you like to work on the third? I grinned back. Let's go. We dashed to the bedroom and spent the night making love. Things seemed to calm down for a few months. Lucy stayed at home on Fridays, so I made an effort to be more attentive and affectionate. I avoided mentioning Marie or Jake because I trusted Lucy to do the right thing. Then something happened. One Friday night I arrived home to find the house dark, with only a few candles lighted on the dining room table. The aroma of lasagna floated from the kitchen, and I imagined Lucy had made something special. I came into the dining room and noticed our best china on the table. Turning around, I noticed her, my gorgeous wife. Do you like what you're seeing? She asked. I nodded. I'm glad, she replied. Tonight is going to be exceptional. Why? I asked. It's a surprise, she said. Go get washed up and sit down while I finish my food. I walked into my bedroom, washed up, and changed into work clothes. When I returned to the dining room, Lucy had already served the lasagna and poured us all glasses of wine. I adored Lucy's food, especially her lasagna, which was always coated with cheese and stuffed with meat and mushrooms. I'm not sure which is more tempting, you or the lasagna, I said as I sat at the table. She giggled. I hope you enjoy both tonight, she replied with a smile. I dove into the lasagna, which was wonderful as usual. After I finished, I started feeling funny. I attempted to rise up but became so dizzy that I nearly fell down. I stared at Lucy, puzzled. What did she do? I wondered. I tried speaking, but it was quite tough. What I began to say. But the next second, I slumped on the floor. When I regained consciousness, I discovered myself chained to a chair in our bedroom. My hands were bound to the chair's arms and my feet to the legs. What the hell happened? I asked myself. Anger overtook me, and I screamed. Lucy, what the hell is going on? A few minutes later, Lucy entered the bedroom, but she was not alone. Marie was with her. What the hell is this? I demanded. Get me out of this chair ASAP. I apologize, honey, Lucy said. Marie thought this was the greatest option. What is the best method for what? I demanded. So you may watch your wife broaden her horizons. Marie spoke softly. Was it your idea to tie her to the chair? I asked. Of course it was, Marie responded. And did you agree to this? I asked Lucy. Do you understand what this means? I'm sorry, Lucy replied. Marie claimed that it was the only way out. Believe me, it will not affect us. I still love you, and I've never dreamt about it. Yes, it affects us. I told you that I would not accept cheating. What the hell is this thing you're putting on me? I asked. I swear to God, I told Lucy, I've never fantasized about this. If you don't release me from this chair and take this thing off of me right now, we're done. Please do not do this, Lucy begged. It's only one night. I will let you go after we are finished. I shake my head. I told Lucy, you're not that stupid. Let me go now. Then 2 men came in and started doing it on my wife. She ultimately let me go, but I got dressed and went straight to the phone. What are you doing now? She asked as I dialed. Emergency. I may be a welder, but I am not stupid. I knew what she and her companions were doing was extremely unlawful, and I planned to put them in jail that same night. Lucy worried when she realized I had phoned the police to report a ravished man being restrained illegally. I seized her mobile phone to prevent her from calling Marie, and I took my keys from her handbag to keep her from leaving. She attempted to take the phone and keys from me, but I wrenched them away and placed them in my pocket. After finishing the call, I sat down and waited for the cops, knowing they'd want to check me and collect fluid samples as proof. Please don't press charges, Lucy begged. I do not want to go to jail. Trust me, it's the safest location for you right now. I said, you can dress. The cops will arrive any minute. You listen to what Jake and Marie stated. Lucy warned, they are serious. You do not want to mess with them. Get dressed, I told her. Lucy observed the look on my face and decided not to push me. She discreetly dressed and I felt her phone vibrate in my pocket. I took it out and found a text from Marie. Is everything okay? Read Marie's message. Everything is fine, I said. He isn't happy, but he'll get over it. I sent the message, thinking Marie would fall for the lie. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. The police had already come when Lucy stepped into the front room. I opened the door to let them in. One look at my face told me everything was going wrong. One cop took my statement while another spoke with Lucy in the bedroom. The officer who took my statement called an ambulance and collected swabs from my face to place in evidence bags. The second officer returned and they conferred briefly at the front door before returning. When they returned, the second officer entered the bedroom and emerged with Lucy, her hands behind her back, crying. Please do not let them arrest me, she implored. This was only supposed to be enjoyable. I shook my head then turned away. By this point, 2 more police cars and an ambulance had arrived. A police officer appeared in the doorway and escorted Lucy away. The police officer who took my statement informed me that she was being arrested. He said, "We'd like to have you checked out at the hospital. The more evidence we have against those who perpetrated this, the better." He suggested that you also obtain a protective order. He gave me a card with the name and phone number of an attorney from the local prosecutor's office. I had already phoned her and she said she would meet you at the hospital, he told me. I thanked him and went with the paramedics who performed a brief checkup at the emergency room on their way to the hospital. They examined me, sampled the stuff on my face, bathed me, and collected blood and urine samples. I was given some painkillers which started to relax me. When a well-dressed woman entered the exam room, "Did Shipman stand up?" she asked. I nodded. "That is me." I said, "Hello, Mr. Shipman. My name is Linda Calloway." She said, "I'm the assistant district attorney assigned to your case. How do you feel?" I felt better. I mentioned that I was a little tired right now. They gave me medication to relieve the ache. "Mr. Shipman, the cops who brought you in have briefed me of the circumstances," she said. "I've also been advised that the other woman and the 2 men who assaulted you are in custody and awaiting a hearing at the county jail. I request that they not be freed on bond, but rather on their own recognizance. The corporation they work for wields considerable power in the county. That is why I have taken it upon myself to obtain a protective order for you." "Thank you for that." I asked, "Do you think it will help?" She shrugged. "I cannot say for certain." She stated it might happen, but there is no assurance. I nodded. "I understand." I said, "If it's any comfort, they'll remain in a cell until their arraignment hearing on Monday morning." She replied, "I understand." I explained that I'm simply an ordinary working man with no friends in high places. When it comes to fighting, I will be alone. "You've got me, Mr. Shipman," she remarked with a note of displeasure. "So long as you don't make any dumb decisions. However, unless you intend to remain married to your wife, you should consider hiring a divorce lawyer." "No, I'm done with her," I said. She nodded in understanding. "I've been advised you'll be detained overnight for observation," she said. "And that's good. Your residence is suddenly a crime scene. They'll need time to sort through everything and acquire proof. By the way, do you own a weapon?" I shake my head. "No, I don't own one," I informed her. "Good," she said. "Just so you know, we have lock laws in our state that allow you to defend yourself in your own home. I will keep that in mind." My folks paid me a visit the following morning after breakfast. They sat silently while I narrated everything. When I finished, my father was upset. "What are you planning to do, son?" he asked. "I am going to divorce her," I said. He nodded in approval. "Good. Is there something we can do?" "I need a good divorce attorney." I said, "I know a few," he responded. "I'll find someone and give you a ride home once you're discharged." "Thanks, Dad," I replied. "I'll call you when I am ready." Get some rest and avoid making stupid decisions, he added, smiling. We all laughed as they went, after my mother hugged me. Later, Lucy's parents paid a visit. We always got along, and they felt like second parents to me. I informed them what had transpired. Are you going to file for divorce? Her father asked. Yes, I nodded. I can't live with what she done. I understand. Is there something we can do? Her mother inquired. If Lucy makes it out of jail, she'll need somewhere to stay. The ADA will obtain a protective order preventing her from staying in the flat. She can stay with us, her mother offered. Thank you, I replied. They left. The doctor arrived a few hours later, checked me, and declared me fit for discharge. The nurses started the paperwork. I contacted my father and my parents came just as the paperwork was completed. After receiving directions from the nurse, they assisted me into the car and we drove home. My father led me to the door and we said our goodbyes. Remember, if you need anything, just call, he said. Thank you, Dad, I responded. Inside the apartment, I noticed that the police had gone through everything. It would take time to sort everything out. I saw a message on the answering machine. Dead flesh. There's no introduction. Only that the number was private. The line sounded familiar and I realized it was from a Rocky movie, which had been recorded and played back over the phone. Several minutes later, the doorbell rang. I noticed a young brunette among the crowd. She was in the club when I first met Jake. I took out my cell phone, set the camera to record, and returned it to my pocket. I opened the door with the chain still attached. Yes? I asked. Mr. Shipman? She inquired quietly. That's me, I responded. I'm Holly Brinkman. I work alongside your wife. May I come inside? Are you alone? I asked. Yes, she responded. I closed the door, removed the chain, and allowed her in. What can I do for you, Ms. Brinkman? I asked. Please call me Holly, she said. Okay, Holly. How can I help you? She handed me a manila envelope. What is this? I asked. Open it, please. She spoke quietly. I opened it and found some photos. I placed the envelope on the coffee table and took latex gloves from the kitchen. I did not want my fingerprints on anything. When I saw the photographs, I was astounded. They exhibited a man who had died. Who is that? I asked. She cried as she said, my husband, Brian. Have you reported it? I asked. Yes, yet the cops classified it as self-destruction, she said. How? I asked. You do not comprehend. We work for a firm with extensive connections. They own the majority of the police force and numerous judges, she explained. Did Jake do it? I asked. Perhaps he ordered it, she responded. So why do you still work there? I asked. I have no choice, she explained. You aren't just a legal secretary, correct? I asked. Right. They treated us in the same way that Jake and Marie treated you. My husband went after Jake and paid the price, she explained. So you're merely a pawn for the firm? I asked. Yes. I'm available to the lawyers and their clients, she explained. What is Marie's role? I asked. Holly stated that she's like a madam, assigning us responsibilities. And she added Lucy to her stable, I asked. Yes, she responded. I found a folded piece of paper inside the envelope. It was a ransom note. Stan Shipman. Stand back. It may be you. Have you read this? I asked. No. It was left at my flat with a message to give it to you, she explained. Are you prepared to tell the district attorney? I asked. No. I simply want to go on. You have no clue how dangerous these individuals are, she explained. How many people at the firm are aware of this? I asked. Almost everyone above middle management? She responded. Thank you for telling me, Holly. I apologize for what occurred, I said. You're a terrific man. Lucy is fortunate to have you, she said as she left a voicemail. This note altered everything. I still intend to divorce Lucy, but these threats have worsened the situation. I called Linda to tell her about the voicemail and the envelope. She requested that I bring it to her immediately. I've chosen to leave town for a bit. I packed a few days' worth of supplies, including some basic welding gear, and asked my supervisor for time off, which he allowed. I checked everything one more time, locked the door, and went to Linda's apartment. She was astounded at the photos and the note. I showed her a video of Holly's confession. "Let me copy this," she said. I handed her my phone and she duplicated the video. Then I realized I still had Lucy's cell phone. I gave it to Linda. "Maybe you'll find anything in here," I said. "I will have our guys check at it. We may need to involve state or federal authorities," she said. "What are you planning to do?" "I am leaving town." I suggested witness protection. She proposed a no. Jake and his pals would fine me. I answered, "Okay, just let me know where you are." She claimed I withdrew as much money as possible and drove away, continually checking for pursuers. The images of the unfortunate man tormented me. I knew I had to be careful. Late in the afternoon, I stopped at a bus stop to make a phone call, hoping it wasn't late. Fortunately, it wasn't. "Yes," responded the harsh voice on the other end. "Dave, this is Stan," I said. Dave was a longtime buddy. We worked separate jobs together and got along great. "Stan, you old son of a cow," he declared. "What's happening?" "I have a problem and need somewhere to stay for a few days." I replied, "Sure, buddy. Just bring a couple of six-packs." He said, "Not an issue. See you in a few hours." I said. We hung up. Feeling better? I drove north, stopping at a convenience store for beer, ice, and cigarettes. Dave smoked, and I thought I would appreciate it. Dave Brolin, perhaps 15 years older than me, worked for my father. He frequently stayed with us when he was working nearby and became like a big brother. His father died from mesothelioma, and his sister Beverly cared for their mother until her death from stomach cancer. Beverly and I were like siblings, tormenting one another. I never made a move because I was in love with Lucy. Dave married young, but divorced after discovering his wife with a co-worker. He never remarried, but spent the majority of his time caring for Beverly, who now lived with him. I arrived at Dave's house about 2:30 a.m., got my belongings, and met him on the porch. "I hope you got some beer," he said. I offered to take the cigars. He helped me move my belongings inside. In the kitchen, I noticed a lovely blonde dressed in a long t-shirt and shorts coming down the stairs. "Who is the blonde bombshell?" I asked. Dave laughed. "You know who I am, dunce," she said. Beverly didn't look like the gangly girl I recalled. "Beverly? Is that indeed you?" I asked, perplexed. "You know it is." "Idiot," she said. "Why are you arriving so early? Did Lucy kick you out?" "No, not quite," I said. Beverly's face softened as she saw my bruises. "I apologize, Stan." "What happened?" she asked. "That is why I am here." I said, "Get a beer and explain," said Dave. I nodded, got 3 drinks, and went to the front room. I gave one to Dave and turned to Beverly. "Are you certain you are old enough to drink?" I asked, cynically. She smiled, raised her middle finger, and took the beer. "Spill it," she said. I told them the entire narrative about Lucy, Marie, and Jake. And I showed them the video of my encounter with Holly. They sat in startled silence. "Crap," Dave stated. "Do you believe they know where you are?" "I do not think so. I haven't noticed any automobiles following me." I said, "Fortunately, we're at the top of the hill and can see anyone approaching. I still have the weapon I purchased from your father. You remember how to shoot, correct?" Dave inquired. "Yeah, but I haven't handled a weapon since Mikey's accident," I said. "Years ago, my younger brother Mikey unintentionally shot himself in the leg. My father was so enraged that he got rid of all his guns." "It's all right," Dave said. "I'll take you to the backyard for practice. Bev can also help. She's a skilled marksman." Beverly grinned wickedly as I gazed at her with amazement. "Does your father know you're here?" Dave inquired. "No, I haven't told anyone, but I must inform the ADA. I hadn't planned on coming here till I was already gone." I said, "Okay," Dave stated. "I will call your folks in the morning. Don't use your cell phone. In fact, switch it off and remove the battery if it has a beacon." "A good idea," I said, turning off the phone and taking out the battery. "So Lucy and her friends will go before a court on Monday?" Beverly asked. "Yes, the arraignment is on Monday. The prosecutor hopes they will be refused bail. But given what Holly stated, I'm not convinced you can stay here for as long as you need." Dave said, "I'll be gone for a week starting Monday, but you can stay." I was planning on 2 weeks. I answered, "Hopefully, it will be resolved by then." "Stay for as long as you wish," Dave said. "Thanks. I appreciate it. Please let me know if there is anything I can do to help." Dave gave Beverly a smile. "Bev could come up with something, but you're a guest, so relax and enjoy the country air. I need to get up shortly to prepare breakfast." Beverly said this while standing. "Hope you enjoy scrambled eggs and hashed potatoes." "That sounds great," I said. She waved and headed upstairs as her door closed. Dave and I headed outdoors for some cigars. "What is her story? I thought she was married with children?" I asked. "She had never met someone she cared for." Dave claimed she dated, but no one fit. "What did it not fit with?" "With you, nitwit. She's always had a crush on you." "No way." "Absolutely. Why didn't she tell you about Lucy?" "She did not want to trigger a breakdown." "Are you serious? Like a heart attack?" "She still loves you. I've heard her use an adult toy named Little Stan to call your name." "There's too much information," I said. Dave smiled. "It's what it is." "When did Beverly become a babe?" "She's always been attractive." "You just had eyes for Lucy." "Yes, I remember." "Look, I would be fine with you two being together. Please don't shatter her heart. It would destroy her if you and Lucy reconciled." "I'm finished with Lucy," I said. "Good. I will see you in the morning." He chucked his cigarette and walked upstairs. I finished mine and went to bed, where I immediately fell asleep. I awoke to Beverly's cry. After my morning ritual and a brief shower, it was 8:30 a.m. I dressed and headed downstairs. I removed my wedding ring and placed it on the dresser in the kitchen. Beverly was making breakfast and looked gorgeous. I pondered why I hadn't noticed her earlier. "It smells nice," I said. She smiled. "I'm glad you think so, cowboy. Coffee is ready if you want it. Do you still prefer butter pecan creamer?" "Of course. Do you have any?" I asked. "Yes, it's in the refrigerator. Please reserve some for David." "Me?" I poured 1 cup and added the creamer. Dave got hooked on marijuana after my father brought some to the building site. "Have a seat," she replied with a smile. "I'll be right with you." I sat at the table where Dave was reading the Sunday newspaper. "Good morning," I said. "Good morning," he responded. "Is there anything intriguing in the news?" I asked. "Yeah. Some fancy lawyer got arrested," he continued, handing me the article. The article was ambiguous, lacking names and details. I returned it as Beverly brought breakfast to the table. "Very nice," I said, taking a large bite. "Thank you, kind sir," Beverly responded with a smile. After breakfast, Dave stood up and put his plate away. "I need to go into town to get a few things. I'll be gone a few hours. If you need to call during the day," he suggested, using the house phone. "Thanks," I responded. Beverly handed him a list and he went out. I looked at Beverly. "Need help with the dishes?" I asked. "I'd enjoy it," she responded. I helped her clear the table. She tossed me a towel and began washing. "I see you aren't wearing your ring. Are you truly planning to divorce her?" she asked. "Yes, I will not accept cheating," I said. "Good. I'm glad to see you still have balls," she added with a small smile. "What is your story? How are you doing?" I asked. "Okay, I suppose," she said. "Is there somebody special in your life?" I asked. "There was once, but he was taken away. Besides, I was occupied caring for my folks." "That is what I heard." I said, yeah, Mom needed help when Dad died. I worked as a waitress until Mom became ill, then took care of her full time. I am sad to hear that. I said, do not be. I do not regret it. I only hope that someone will be there for me when I am her age. So, what happened afterwards? I asked. After Mom died, we sold the house and most of her belongings to cover her expenses. Dave, please let me stay here. He assured Mom he would. He offered to pay for my college, but I declined. Why? I hope to succeed on my own. I work at McDonald's and attend business classes in the evening. Good for you, I said. Yeah, Dave wants to start a fabric business, and I will handle the bookkeeping. Is he still discussing it? I asked. Indeed, he does. Custom grills, trailers, and other items. He aspires to work from home in his backyard shop. Perhaps he can show it to me while I am here. I said, that would be fantastic, she said. We grew silent, and I found myself admiring her for the first time. Recognizing her beauty extended beyond her appearance. She stared at me before speaking. What are you looking at? She asked. I am looking at the most beautiful woman I have ever met. I said. She looked down, tears gathering in her eyes. Stop teasing me, she murmured quietly. I'm not teasing. I admire you. You have put your life on hold for your parents. I declined Dave's offer of college help, and now you are working on your own. I am only sorry I didn't notice it sooner. Lucy caught you completely off guard. She said, I can't blame you. Yes, you're correct, I admitted. She finished rinsing the dishes, wiped her hands, and turned to face me. Did she use you? Bev said. I guess you're correct, I responded. I saw through her years ago, she explained. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. Wouldn't you have believed me, she said. She was probably correct. I only wanted her to be happy, I explained. And look where that led you, she remarked. She got what she wanted from you and then moved on. I'm delighted she is in jail. If she were here right now, I'm not sure what I'd do. I believe you, I said. She uttered one thing, hands on her hips. Will you take her back? I shake my head. No, the ship has sailed. Good. And if you have any doubts, remember this. We made love. We'd better tidy up before Dave returns, she replied. I've got some meat to prepare for tonight. So why don't you have a fast shower? I will be up soon. Okay, I said. What about the meat? We enjoy barbecuing on Sundays. You like venison, correct? Yes, I adore venison, I admitted. But I hadn't eaten it in years. Good. I fired it myself with Dave's .50 caliber flintlock. Dressed it in the field, too. You're amazing, I said. Did you load it yourself? Of course. A patched round ball containing 100 grams of double F powder. I even shaped the bullet myself. Damn, I said. Do you enjoy fishing, too? She smiled. I enjoy fishing. I create my own hooks and clean the fish myself. Is there anything you haven't completed? I asked cynically. I have not yet repaired Dave's truck's gearbox, but I did help with the engine. I am certainly in love. She stated there was no time for that just now. Wait till tonight. You will be sleeping with me? My bed is larger? Won't Dave be upset? I asked. No, we are both adults. I need to contact the DA. Please let her know where I am. I said. Bev pointed at the cordless phone. Use that phone, she urged. I called and almost forgot. The distance was long. Linda answered after the second ring. Linda Calloway, she mentioned. Linda, this is Stan Shipman. Just wanted to let you know where I am. Stan, thank goodness you phoned. I was concerned. Where are you now? At an old family friend's home. I turned off my cell phone for safety. Good. I will keep you updated. The feds are investigating your wife's firm. I also spoke with a top divorce attorney for you. I hope you do not mind. No, I do not mind. I said. Good, Linda responded. She expects a call from you tomorrow. I told her a little about your circumstances. She is more than capable of handling it. Thank you, I said. I will call her. Linda provided me the material and promised to keep me updated on the hearing. By then David had returned, and I had assisted him with the groceries. I called your folks. They were worried, but I assured them you would be staying with us. He said. Thanks, I responded. That night we barbecued and ate dinner on the patio. After dinner, Dave and I drank beer and smoked while Beverly finished cleaning up. Bev stated you were sleeping in her room. Dave asked, for how long? I believe so, I said, feeling slightly embarrassed. Do you love her? He asked. Yes, I do, I responded. Good. You should have noticed this sooner. Bev can care for herself, but I don't want to hurt you. I'd never hurt her. I said. I am delighted to hear that. Welcome to the family, he stated this while shaking my hand. Please don't keep me up all night. I laughed. I will try. That night, after Bev and I had made love, I hugged her and wondered about our future. I felt more satisfied than I have in a long time. What are you thinking about? She inquired quietly. What about the future? I responded. She asked. Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? I asked. I do not aspire to a high-powered career. I simply want a faithful husband that loves me. And a family to care for, she said. How about your courses? I asked. That's largely for Dave, she explained. When he starts his business, he will require assistance. What do you desire from life? I want a devoted wife who adores me and a family of my own. I believed I had it with Lucy, but it didn't pan out. How about your job? She asked. I like it. Sometimes it pulls me away for a few weeks. Can you handle that? She laughed. My brother is a welder like you. I understand what to expect. I can take anything as long as I know you'll return home to me. Lucy, I wish we had met previously. Me too, she said. But we'll get through this together. We are a team. I will always be here for you. I love you. I said this while kissing her. I adore you even more. She stated this while hugging me. I went to sleep feeling really loved. Beverly got up early the next morning, cooked breakfast, and prepared for work. On her way out, she kissed me and explained that she had school that evening. I'll be home by 9:30 a.m. You'll have to manage on your own, she added. Remember? I love you. I adore you too, I replied, reciprocating her kiss. What about me? Dee smiled as he inquired. Beverly laughed and kissed him on the cheek. Stay out of trouble, okay, she said as she exited. I need to contact that divorce lawyer. Linda recommended. I said, checking my watch. I contacted Bernice Goodwin's office after Dave pointed to the phone. Goodwin, said the receptionist. I introduced myself and asked for Bernice. Miss Goodwin is expecting your call. Just a moment, please. Following a brief pause, Bernice Goodwin spoke. How can I help you? This is Stan Shipman. Did Linda Calloway suggest you? Yes, Mr. Shipman. Linda shared some details about your predicament. Normally, I would prefer private meetings, but I understand that is not practical. We can complete this online. Please share your tale. I explained everything, and she listened patiently. What are your expectations? She asked. I want as much as I can, including no alimony and a portion of our assets. We can do it. Your wife's criminal charges should be helpful. Do you own any properties? No. We live in an apartment. How about suing Marie and Jake? Do what you believe is correct, I said. Okay. I will need to see your financial records. Have you an email address? Yes, I answered. I will email you some documents to sign, as well as a checklist. I also require payment in advance. Can you do this today? Yes, I answered. Good. I will email everything to you. Any questions? No questions, I said. I gave her my email address, and she directed me to her assistant, who collected my credit card information. After the call, I got on my laptop to check my email. Bernice submitted 2 docs. I electronically signed the contract and sent it with a receipt. The other booklet included tips on how to protect myself financially via online banking. I opened a new account and transferred half of our savings to it. I paid off and cancelled Lucy's credit card, but I kept mine active to cover the fee. By the time I finished, it was past noon. Dave drove me to his store, where he was working on a trailer for a nearby farmer. I joined him, looking for work, and resting around 3 p.m. when we received a call. Using an extension cord, Dave handed me the receiver. "It's your attorney," he said. "Stand here," I replied, picking up the phone. "Linda Calloway," she announced. "Bad news. The judge set the minimum bail and released them." "How?" I asked. "Probably on their payroll," she replied. "The protection order is in force, but it is inadequate. Stay put and avoid town. They are under surveillance by the federal government, but I cannot promise your safety." "Great," I said. "What happens now?" "Stay put," she repeated. "I will manage everything here. Call if you require anything." "Okay," I said. We concluded the call and I handed Dave the phone. "Bad news?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "The judge freed them." "Damn," he said. "I'll call your family." "I should do that," I said. Dave nodded and handed back the phone. I dialed and my father answered on the second ring. "Dad, this is Stan," I asked. "How are you?" he asked. "I am fine," I said. The judge released Lucy and her companions. "Be cautious. They might come look for me." "Do not worry," he said. "We will not say anything." "Are you at John Harrison's?" Did the question surprise you? John was a retired co-worker who lived 2 hours south. I realized Lucy might be present now. "I'm in a motel about 50 miles south." I said okay. He said to stay safe. "I will. I am leaving in the morning. Please let me know where you are." "Sure," he said. "Mom is in the bathroom. Tell her I am okay and love her." "Will do," he said. "We will talk soon." "Absolutely, Dad," I said. "Love you." "I love you too, son," he replied before hanging up. I contacted Linda again. Lucy and her buddies might be at my parents' house. I assured her I'd send federal agents there straight away. "Stay put," she said. I handed Dave the phone. "What up?" he asked. "I believe Lucy is at my parents' house." I claimed I'd heard. "Do you believe they will buy your story?" "I hope so. At least for a few hours. I need to find out whether they have 2 Johns. A new hiding place." "No," Dave said, "we're in it together. Stay put. I'll talk to the sheriff. Do not go anyplace." I nodded. A few hours later, he left the house and went into town. Linda called back after he left. "Stan, you were correct," she said. "Lucy married Jake and a couple of their thugs arrived after the hearing. They tied up your family and threatened them. They said they would not expose your whereabouts. We issued an APB against them. They left one of their guys here and he is currently in prison. Of course he is not talking." "Do you know where they're going?" I asked. "No, I do not. But I don't think they believed your account," she explained. "Here, chat to your father." A few seconds later, my father was on the phone. "Stan, I don't think they believed that ruse," he added. "Are you all okay?" I asked. "Yeah, we are okay right now. But I believe Lucy and her companions are on their way to you," he explained. "What makes you believe that?" I asked. "I overheard Lucy speaking." He said. "Good." I said. "Let Linda know to send the sheriff down here." "I will, son," he replied. "Be cautious, you hear?" "I will, Dad." Linda's voice came over the phone after I said that. "Where are you located?" she asked. I explained where I was and provided her directions. "Do you believe Lucy knows where this is?" "She knows," I said. "Good," Linda stated. "Stay where you are. We'll send someone as soon as we can." We continued talking, and as I exited the store, I proceeded for my residence. I heard a familiar voice. It was Jake. He said, "You thought you could outwit us? Nice try informing your parents you're heading south." "When, really?" "You are up north." "Fortunately for us, Lucy knew where you were headed. Now move." He brandished the weapon around. "Get inside," he said, pointing to a black SUV. I climbed into the backseat and noticed Lucy smirking at me. She smirked and asked, "Thought you could outsmart us?" I told Lucy that it was not going to end well for her. "The cops will arrive soon enough." "Never mind," she replied. "It will be too late for you. You should have just accepted the program. Now you'll have to pay for it." Marie and Jake laughed. Jake told us to take them to a location along the creek bed at the foot of the hill. "So you intend to destroy me, right?" I asked Lucy. She laughed. "You know what they say. Dead guys tell no tales," she said. Jake and Marie laughed. "Why?" I asked her. "Why did you do that?" She shrugged. "What shall I say?" she inquired rhetorically. "He's wealthier than you. Besides, I don't want to marry a welder for the rest of my life. I desire a good life. And Jake can give it to me." "Are you both done reminiscing?" asked Jake. "We have things to accomplish, and it is becoming late." "I'm sure you know what comes next, old boy," he said. "Do not worry." I then heard a rifle shot followed by 2 more shots. Lucy looked around, terrified, and attempted to hide behind Jake. In the background, I heard the definite sound of a 4-wheeler coming. I attempted to see who it was, but all I saw was a cloud of dust moving closer. Then it was upon us, and I noticed long, golden hair pouring behind the driver. I recognized Beverly. She halted the 4-wheeler and jumped off, clutching a hunting gun. Once free, I sat back and watched her approach Lucy. "Don't touch my man again," yelled Beverly. "Do you comprehend what I'm saying?" Lucy slowly nodded. Siren sounded in the distance, so Beverly approached the 4-wheeler and drew out a flare weapon. She pointed it at the sky and shot a flare to alert the cops. We soon noticed flashing lights heading our way. "Are you all right, honey?" she inquired as she approached me. "I am now," I responded. "You saved my life. I will never be able to repay you for that. Trust me, you'll have the rest of your life to make amends to me," she replied with a smile. Soon, we were encircled by police cars. Dave drove up in his pickup and got out to check on us. One of the deputies requested an ambulance and a medical examiner. "Are you okay?" Dave approached us. "I am now." "Thank you, Bev," I said. "She saved my life." The sheriff recorded our statements and oversaw the procedure. By then, the ambulance had arrived and the paramedics were helping Marie and Lucy. "She ruined Jake and Ronnie." Marie exclaimed, "Aren't you going to arrest her?" "No." The sheriff stated that this is Dave's land and the Fortress Doctrine applies here. Ms. Brolin had every right to safeguard Mr. Shipman's life. Consider yourself lucky that she didn't also destroy you. As I watched the sheriff's deputies handcuff and lead Lucy away, he informed me that she and Marie would be charged with attempted homicide and conspiracy to commit homicide after the authorities had gathered evidence and removed the bodies. We were liberated. I rode the quad bike home with Beverly. "I thought you had classes today." I said, "What happened?" Dave stopped by McDonald's to tell me what occurred. She said, "I'll excuse myself and come home. I needed to make sure you were okay. I noticed tire tracks in the grass and followed them to where you were. So I got into the deer stand that I had built up. Well, you know the rest. When I saw what Jake was going to do, I simply reacted, I will catch up." "Do not worry." I said, "I'm not worried. I am grateful, more than you could dream." I grabbed my phone and contacted Linda to explain what had happened. She was relieved to learn that I was fine. "They'll be right where we need them after this," she said. "Do not worry. The company is going down hard." "I certainly hope so," I said. After that, I called my folks to tell them what had transpired. They, too, were relieved to hear that everything had gone smoothly for us. Marie recovered from her injuries, and she and Lucy were tried on accusations of attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. they were found guilty and convicted of crimes relating to my original assault and unlawful imprisonment. Both were sentenced to life in prison and face additional charges for the firm's conspiracy and racketeering. During that time, I only saw them twice. Once, Biv and I were asked to testify. The second time, they were sentenced. They both looked dreadful, but I couldn't help but smile. The end result was that neither of them would ever breathe free air again. And I couldn't have been happier. Meanwhile, Beatrice had obtained a divorce and persuaded the judge not to award her anything due to Luce's criminal record. She also negotiated a substantial sum for Marie and Jake's inheritance by the time she finished. I had money. Yes, Bernie received some of it, but I was really pleased with my share. The firm also paid a large fee since the partners faced multiple federal accusations, including racketeering and allegations relating to the inexplicable deaths of 2 additional men. By the end of it all, the firm was forced to close its doors, and the partners were sentenced to life in prison. All of this took roughly 6 months. By the end, I had more than enough money to support Beverly and myself for years to come. I purchased her a lovely ring and proposed to her in a respectable manner. She shrieked and kissed me as she dropped to one knee. A month or 2 later, we got married and spent a week in Las Vegas. When we returned, we sat Dave down in the living room and proposed to him. His eyes widened when we recommended that we launch a firm named DNS Welding and Custom Fabrications. "Are you serious?" he asked us. "Hell yeah," I responded. Beverly pulled out her spreadsheet and showed him the business plan she had created. After carefully inspecting it, he sat back in his chair. "You know, I believe this could work," he said. "By the way, I nearly forgot," he added, then dug inside his pocket. He took out a bunch of keys and handed them out to us. "Do you remember that lot on the south side?" "Yes," Beverly responded. "What's there?" "Have you seen the new 2-bedroom house on it?" he asked. "Yes," she responded. "We believed you'd sold the lot." "No," he said. "It's your wedding present to me and your parents." He continued, looking at me. "It is brand new and fully equipped with cutting-edge technology. By the way, the plot in the house is registered in your name. Your father and I have already relocated your belongings from your flat there. Except for anything with Luce's picture on it, of course." "Wow," I said, "I honestly don't know what to say. Sure, I could afford a custom-built house. But a 2-bedroom house was just as attractive and durable as a log home. I was not going to waste a good opportunity. I knew it had to cost them more than $150,000. "Say thank you, partner," he murmured, reaching out his hand. I grinned as I clasped his hand. We found ourselves wrapped in a manly bear hug. "Do you mind if we go down there?" asked Beverly. "I hate to see you alone." "I'll be fine," he said. "Besides, I will finally be able to have a good night's sleep. I'm growing weary of hearing you moan all night." We celebrated that night, and I contacted my parents to express my gratitude for the present. Later that evening, Beverly and I dedicated the master bedroom. Yes, I thought as we slept in each other's arms. Things are shaping up nicely. Here's the next story. You never know who you share a bed with, who you eat breakfast with, or who you spend the majority of your time with, no matter how depressing that may sound. My wife was the one that blatantly lied to my face and hurt me. But fate and karma put everything in order. Before I met Candy, there were only 2 important things in my life. The 1946 Flathead motorcycle. My father passed down to me the 1917 Navy Luger that my grandfather brought back from World War II. I wasn't very ambitious. I tended to go with the flow and choose the path of least resistance. Don't mistake me for a pushover, though. I wasn't a bully, either. Over the years, I've enjoyed the company of a variety of young females, frequently enticing one of the nicer ones out of the bar before it closed. However, none of them piqued my interest enough to seek a serious relationship until I visited Vegas, where I wasn't attempting to pick up girls at bars. I was working hard on various sorts of earth-moving equipment, which put a pressure on my kidneys. I soon became acquainted with Caterpillar Machinery and its competitors. I had enough of work, and the pay was decent. Before long, I was able to acquire a tiny house with a garage for my beloved Flathead. while my Ford F-150 pickup truck sat outside in the rain. My prized treasure had the luxury of staying indoors. My grandfather's Luger was safely placed in the bedroom gun cabinet, alongside a few rifles, shark guns, and black powder weaponry. It was a charming little cabin where I would frequently bring my conquests to strengthen my nighttime ties. My demise occurred in the middle of January as employment slowed. A few buddies and I foolishly boarded a special casino jet from Philadelphia to Las Vegas. Unfortunately, I forgot the golden rule. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Candy was from somewhere between Huntsville and Birmingham, but the exact name slipped me. Whether it was her golden curls or her exquisite fake contours, I was enamored the instant I laid eyes on her. What sealed the deal for me was how she made me feel like the center of the universe. In her presence, I felt attractive, intelligent, and powerful. I suddenly became the personification of a passionate lover. You can blame it on drink or the pull of the city lights. But I was determined to make her mine. My collection would be incomplete without her. So I returned home with a new wife and a new tattoo. For a while, everything was fine. As the weather warmed, Candy and I went on weekend rides. Though I found myself tinkering with the Harley rather than riding. That was part of the excitement. Just when I was adjusting to this new addition to my life, everything unraveled. Taking Candy to the pig pit was not a prudent decision. But I was confident in my ability to care for her. I knew what to expect from this dive because I'd done it several times before. I thought we'd have a good time if I kept my cool and was ready to leave if things got bad. The first few hours went normally until Butter, a big fellow, showed in. Candy ended up dancing with Butter several times. And it appeared that she was becoming too friendly. Candy has a flirty personality. Despite my best efforts to limit my alcohol consumption, this was not the ideal atmosphere. I remained sober enough to recognize I had no chance against this behemoth if things escalated. It was time to make our escape. Candy was having a good time and refused to go. Despite her complaints, which echoed loudly through the pub as we approached the truck, I had to eventually lead her out. Somebody grabbed my arm. It was Butter, and he was not smiling. I swung at him, and it was the last thing I recalled. All right, I am familiar with all of the clichés. The distorted voices over the speaker system, as well as the frequent chime noises announcing something, were the first things that drew my notice. Everything was there. The sickly green walls and the humming fluorescent lighting. I was alone in the room from hell, moaning in agony. Sunlight rushed through the window, suggesting daytime, but I could only see it with my right eye. My left eye was swollen and closed, taking stock. My lip throbbed, and it appeared like a couple of teeth were missing. Deep breathing was out of the question. My belly was wrapped in bandages like a mummy. Something was wrong with my right hand, which I discovered was encased in steel with braces, immobilizing the fingers. Everything rushed back to me. Then I'd use that hand to slug some giant in the face. To add insult to injury, I had a cast on my left foot. My ankle most likely suffered damage as a result of the incident. I sometimes marvel at my own intellect. I quickly realized that I had done something stupid and as a result was beaten up. I also really needed to pee, using my great deductive skills. I located the call button near the headboard. "I see you're awake, Mr. Tyrell. It's great to have you back in the land of the living. How do you feel?" Nurse glistened like a normal hospital staff from a sitcom. She wasn't untidy, but she wasn't making any special effort in the opposite way. "I think you'll be furious with me if I don't fetch a bedpan right now." It was terrible, but at least I was able to relieve myself with some help. My guardian angel carried out the assignment as if it were regular, which I'm sure it was. "Where is my wife?" She and her male friend had departed some hours ago. "We weren't expecting you to wake up until later today." "What? Male friend?" She gave me a confused glance. A huge guy who resembled a biker. Male friend. That is the person that beat me up. He should be in jail. Why in the hell is Candy going home or anywhere else with him? My fleeting irritation exacerbated the discomfort pouring from my chest. "Could you kindly explain what is wrong with me and get me some painkillers?" "Any kind will do." I dislike taking pain medicine because it makes me really nauseated at the time. However, sickness felt preferable. The attending doctor appeared to be of Indian heritage. But he spoke perfect English and displayed skill in his specialty. In a brief 20-minute session, he covered all relevant material and informed me that I could return home once I could use the restroom alone. While my residence lacked typical toilet facilities, it did have a bathroom. Nurse Glisson withdrew the intravenous line an hour later, off my arm, and gave me a walker. After she departed, I carefully got out of bed and made my way to the bathroom, where I emptied myself in discomfort. Passing stools with 3 cracked ribs was not enjoyable. 3 hours later, my loving wife arrived, accompanied by her companion. Butter remained silently beside the entrance for about 5 minutes, while I bore my wife's excessive chatter. Honestly, I couldn't hear anything she said. She finally paused to let you recover your breath. What's he doing here? Why is he not in jail? And why are you with him? That's when I discovered Candy's intelligence didn't match her looks. 3 straight questions overpowered her. She hadn't considered anything other than apologizing for causing the problem. She stood there, frustrated and unable to express herself more. Let's start over. Why isn't he imprisoned? Butter avoided eye contact with me. Candy eventually managed to get a few phrases together. The cops stated they could not arrest him unless we filed charges. They said you started the altercation by hitting first. What exactly are you talking about? He grabbed me as I was defending my wife. Yes, but he didn't realize I was your wife. Butter, I thought you were pulling me out of the pig pit against my will. He was trying to keep me safe from you. When he intervened, you hit him. Is this what you told the police? Well, that was true. And I could not lie to them. So you are saying he can assault me and then walk away? Couldn't you have accused him of excessive force? Candy simply nodded and gave me a perplexed look. I apologize, Guy. I did not understand she was your wife. I'll make things right. I promise. Butter expressed himself, feeling forced to explain his conduct. How are you going to make it right? I'll take care of everything for you while you recover. You can rest confident that I will be there for you. It felt like a nightmare. I do not want your help or anything else. Please leave me alone, John. Do not hurry into decisions. Butler has already come up to assist. He returned your truck home and informed your employer that you would be out for approximately 6 weeks. Has he visited the house? Yes, and he intends to stay there while you recover. Isn't this considerate? No, it is not. I want him out of my home and life. Things tend to get worse from there. I was released from the hospital but had to spend at least 2 weeks in bed at home for a month. Candy was given instructions for changing dressings as well as a stack of medications, the majority of which were for painkillers. In the beginning, Candy offered me drugs. It was all a blur, but I do recall a lot of laughing and giggling. I gradually understood I needed to quit taking the drugs and recover mental clarity. Even though I could see through my damaged eye, my vision was still fuzzy. I lost one tooth and shattered the other, causing great discomfort and a fear of infection. A visit to the dentist was unavoidable. My right arm was out of use and I could scarcely move due to my wounded ankle. Breathing and movement were difficult due to cracked ribs, which posed a significant challenge. Candy brought soup and medication and Butter smiled as he watched from the doorway. I discovered that Candy had pumped up, giving me extra tablets throughout the day and late at night. I refused sweets and butter and returned after midnight trying to be quiet. My senses had returned to normal by then, but my body was still devastated. Their nights always ended with boisterous closeness, followed by a strange silence when they returned. I spent my days thinking about numerous scenarios. There was a need for action, but I had no idea what to do when there were sweets and butter at home. I claimed I was still under the influence of unlawful substances. They kept administering pills, but I quietly spit them out later. While my eye recovered, my damaged tooth progressed to the point that it needed to be out. The toothache from the root infection was more painful than when it was first damaged. My hand remained stiff, causing pain when moved. I removed the bandages and metal splints myself, unobserved by anyone. Yet it remained unusable. Even though my ribs appeared to be healing, my movement remained limited. The cast on my foot was simply an inconvenience. I got to the point where I could hobble without the help of a walker. Unbeknownst to Candy and Butter, Butter entered the room at noon with a bowl of soup. I was weary of eating soup all the time, but I didn't think it was a good idea to complain. I maintained my grogginess and saw him smirk slightly. "Where is Candy?" "She's in the salon getting her hair and nails done," he replied by setting the soup on the nightstand. "Are you planning on leaving soon, Butter?" "Why would I want to leave?" "So I should be able to recuperate soon. And I wondered if you wanted to move on with your life." Butter chuckled. "This is my life, dude. Why would I leave such an ideal situation? It's a wonderful small place and your wife is terrific in bed. The credit card limit is outrageous. I get to party with a beautiful woman every night, and you pay the cost. If you think I'm going to give this up, you're crazy. What will you do when I get better?" "Who told you you were getting better? Just take the soup, weakling. By the way, Candy and I are going to Hershey tomorrow for the bike show. We will take that nice flathead you have in the garage. Do not worry. I will take care of it." He smirked and exited the room. That resolved everything for me. It was time for action. "Is there any action?" Shortly later, I heard his enormous diesel vehicle rumble away. Likely to pick up my darling wife. I stumbled out of bed and grabbed the key to the gun cabinet. Only to discover it was useless. The lock had broken. Things were deteriorating. Not only were the guns gone, including the black powder rifles, but my beloved Navy Luger was also vanished. All that left were a few boxes of ammunition and 2 cans of black powder, which they kept hidden from me. Or were they sold? My trousers hung on a chair, unwashed for more than a week after I left the hospital. I searched through my wallet for credit cards and my driver's license, which were all missing. It appeared that nothing was going right today. Returning to bed, I drank my soup and took a couple of Tylenol. As I waited for Candy to bring my meal. "You don't look well, dear. What is the matter?" "I don't believe I'm improving. I'm constantly exhausted and nauseated." "Don't worry, John. Everything will be all right. Simply continue taking your medicines as prescribed." Sat on the meal platter. "You look beautiful. Did you have your hair done?" "Yes, I am pleased you noticed. Butter is leading me to the pig pen. Tomorrow, we are headed to Hershey. Should I bring something back for you?" "No, I am okay." We sat calmly for a few moments as I ate candies. "Yes, John. What has happened to my guns?" "You noticed." "I'm sorry, honey, but we ran into an issue and had to sell them." "What kind of problem?" "Butter's truck's transmission failed, and the mechanic demanded money. Because you are against credit card cash advances, we opted to sell the guns. After all, you were not using them." "Damn you, Candy. The Luger was worth more than Butter's." "Hold the truck. Please do not tell me you've sold it." "It wasn't worth as much as you expected, John. We took it to Pinto, a firearms expert. He claimed it was so old that no ammunition could be found for it. We were blessed to receive $200. It was worth at least 5 times more." "Come on, John. It was only an old gun. I will get you another one." "Why are we paying to repair his truck?" "Because he is going out of his way to aid you. It's not his fault you were hurt." "What do you mean?" "He is the one who did it. John, you hit him first. Remember that?" "She seems upset with me." "Butter, take your medicines. I might be late tonight." Fridays are generally enjoyable. A few hours later, Candy returned to retrieve the dinner tray. I didn't budge towards her. I appeared to have slept for the night. She kept quiet to avoid waking me, and 10 minutes later, the diesel had departed for the pig pit. I guessed that I had around 6 hours ahead of me. It was going to be difficult with only one hand, one foot, and a bad attitude. Hopefully, the latter will compensate for the former. I had been diligent in keeping my Tylenol intake consistent, so the discomfort was mostly under control. By this point, I had understood my limitations and how to maneuver my movements in order to remain effective. But, despite of the hurdles, I understood what had to be done. I placed the 2 cans of black powder in a pillowcase, allowing me to use the walker to get to the garage. Naturally, I stopped in the kitchen to grab a few beer cans along the way. For the first 30 minutes, I gathered all of the required tools and parts. Before starting my task, I drank a can of beer. 2 years ago, I built a whole new wiring harness for the flathead motorbike. I was highly familiar with every cable and connector on that bike. However, removing the solitary seat took twice as long as anticipated. My left hand did not comply as well as my right. It was building up to be a long night. The 4 pipe portions under the seat were pretty easy to install. The difficult part was gently cracking the glass on the spare tail light bulbs to keep only the filaments. Fortunately, I had a supply of 6-volt bulbs from eBay. Once I figured out how to properly adjust the vice grips, progress accelerated, but I still had to break 3 bulbs to salvage one good one. I installed 2 bulbs in each section of pipe, wiring them in parallel so that if one filament failed, the other would continue to function. With 4 pieces completed, I felt confident that everything would go as planned. The flathead's ignition switch had 4 settings, including parking lights for normal daylight use and headlights for nighttime drive. On his trip home from Hershey, Butter usually took the 2nd place during the day. He'd moved to the 3rd position for the headlights, hoping that the moron wouldn't turn them on first, alerting someone to their presence. Regardless of the risk, he had to take it. Filling the pipes with black powder required delicate effort. Butter had to take extreme care not to damage the light bulb filament, especially given his limited dexterity. After successfully finishing the work, he celebrated with another beer. Before completing the wiring, he created a small test circuit that worked flawlessly. Reattaching the seat took significantly longer than removing it. The extra hardware underneath made securing the mount bolts more difficult. After cleaning up, Butters took a step back to appreciate his job. It was flawless and understated. Despite being aware of its presence, he drank the last drink before retiring to bed. Fatigued from reaching the bedroom, Butter believed the drink would help him relax, but he remained tense, fearing the noises of his wife and her new partner. He took a few sleeping tablets and fell asleep. The prescription together with the beer proved effective. I awoke to the familiar sound of the flathead, which was starting up in the sunlight coming from my window. I breathed a sigh of relief, thankful that Butter had not turned on the Harley lights. After crawling to the window and seeing my beloved flathead whisk my wife and opponent away, maybe for good, I relieved myself before taking a much-needed shower. Oddly, I felt a lot better than before. My first thought was to shower, remove the multiple bandages, and retreat to the living room recliner. I went to the kitchen and grabbed another drink, deciding it was too soon to start feeling better. I purchased pizza and instantly cancelled all of my credit cards. When they tried to use the candy and butter, it was a frustrating experience, but I felt they had enough money for a hefty $1.20 tip. The pizza delivery dude delivered me another cool 6-pack of beer. My hunger appeared to have returned, and I rapidly gobbled the meat lover's delight. I spent the remainder of the day in front of the television. Nothing significant was expected until dark. My supply of beer shortly ran out, causing me to switch to coffee, which felt suitable. My right hand, while still hurting, showed signs of healing, allowing me to use it to some extent in preparing the coffee. Out of boredom, I decided to remove the bandages off my waist. The newly exposed skin looked pale, white, and bloated. However, the sensation of being unwrapped was strangely soothing. The ache seems to have subsided. I considered whether the activity of working on the bike had any therapeutic value. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, I wrapped my casted foot in a plastic bag and had a lengthy hot shower. After changing into sweatpants, I ordered Chinese takeaway. I must have nodded asleep as the Steven Seagal movie marathon neared midnight. I promised the delivery person a hefty gratuity if they brought along a 6-pack of cool beer. Candy and butter hadn't returned, and the day had gone by without any phone calls or visitors. The next morning, I was awakened by an urgent knock on the door from state police. Officers stood outside. "Mr. Tyrell?" "Yes." "Are you Candice Tyrell's husband?" "Yes." "Candy, there is someone here to see you." Silence ensued. She attended the bike exhibition in Hershey yesterday. I expected her to return last night, but it appears she did not. Has something happened? For a brief while, the two troopers exchanged stares similar to Marine drill sergeants. I'm afraid your wife was critically injured in an incident at the Hershey Auditorium parking lot. How awful is she? Hurt? Was there an accident? You mentioned an incident. In reality, sir, there was an event. Your wife was on a motorcycle with another man when it exploded in the parking lot. The man she was with was killed, and your wife was seriously harmed. She's currently in the Hershey Burn Center. Fortunately, nobody else was hurt. How serious are her injuries? Will she be okay? Trooper number 1 simply shook his head. It was my motorcycle. Everything was good when they departed yesterday morning. What may cause an otherwise in fine condition motorcycle to explode? We're looking into that. How did you know Mr. Butterworth? Who? Michael Butterworth. He's the man that was killed beside your wife. We barely met him a few weeks back. I didn't even know his real name, just dubbed him Butter. It appears that Mr. Butterworth had a lot of enemies. There are many people holding grudges against him. It'll take some time to investigate everything. I still want to know about my wife's situation. How awful is she now? It's questionable whether she'll survive. Can she be moved? How am I supposed to see her? What is my condition? I motioned to my damaged foot. The best we can do is have someone contact you. Trooper number 1 was writing something down on a notepad. Were either of you at the accident scene? Yes, sir. We were both there. I am just wondering. But what is the motorcycle's condition? Trooper number 1 looked up from his notepad. The engine and transmission were still intact. But the rest of it was spread everywhere. Could you please return the wreckage to me? It is for sentimental reasons, I asked. I believe that could be arranged. By the way, what happened to your foot? Trooper number 2 handed me a card that included his name and phone number. It's a horrible little breakup. I've been stuck at home for 3 weeks. If I hadn't injured my ankle, I would have been out on that bike. The 2 officers were happy with my responses and started to depart. I didn't believe they were investigating anything. It looked like they were merely notifying me about the occurrence. Just curious, but do any of you gentlemen know a weapons dealer named Tinto? I inquired. Yeah, he has a business beside a freighter. We detained him last year for selling illegally modified AK-47s. Is there a particular reason you are asking? One of the troopers responded. No reason. Mr. Butterworth mentioned his name once. Thank you for stopping by. I said. I discovered an old TV supper in the back of the freezer. Microwaved it and made fresh coffee. Tomorrow, I had to go to the dentist and have my foot cast removed. The next few months were going to be busy. The first item on my agenda was to scavenge for the parts one needed to rebuild the flathead. Once I was in better shape, I'd go see Mr. Tinto in a freighter and tell him about my Navy Luger. He would not be delighted to see me, but first I needed to drive to Hershey to see my beloved wife. After a few phone calls, Butter's truck vanished, leaving me with $4,000 in my pocket. It wasn't much given the truck's $20,000 value, but the deal went smoothly with no questions asked. I decided to go out to supper, primarily to see if I could drive with the cast on. I felt relieved that I had picked an automatic transmission. The major issue was just getting into and out of the truck. It was the first time I'd ever finished an entire rack of ribs on my own. Having a big appetite looked like a good indication. I had to wait until after 9 o'clock the next morning to begin scheduling appointments. I scheduled a dental appointment in the morning and had the cast removed in the afternoon. It took an hour to adjust a great pair of pants so they would fit over the cast. There was no way I was driving to Hershey in sweatpants. Candy's condition was deteriorating. Seeing her in the plastic tent made me feel bad about the drastic measures I had taken. But that emotion immediately vanished when I remembered the thrashing I had at Butter's hands. Her nurse said that she was deeply medicated to alleviate her agony. She had lost her right foot and received serious burns on the front of her body, including her clothes. It may have been worse if she hadn't been pushed from her bike by the explosion. Given her betrayal and subsequent acts, she earned all she received. It was difficult to feel any sympathy for her. I wanted to cause as much pain as possible to Butter. And she ended up sharing the repercussions with him. It seemed only fair given that they shared everything else. I took pleasure in knowing they were in it together, even though they had not colluded. They obviously used the circumstance to their advantage. "Hello, Mr. Tyrell. My name is Dr. Dolan. I regret informing you about your wife's accident." I stood there speechless, unable to answer. "Have you got any queries, Mr. Tyrell?" "I guess not." "Will she be able to contact me at all? How quickly will she recover consciousness?" The doctor led me to a chair and spoke calmly. "She is awake at the moment, but extremely drugged. I am sad to tell that we do not have much hope for her recovery. The explosion has resulted in substantial internal damage. We can keep her alive with life support, but that means enduring the anguish of burns. There is minimal likelihood she will leave the hospital. We can't say how long she'll be conscious. So, if you want to speak with her, do so now." "I understand, doctor. Are you proposing that I consider removing her off life support?" "Yes, it is the most merciful option, but the final decision is up to you." "Could you give me a moment alone with her?" "Of course." After Dr. Dolan left, I sat next to my wife. I slowly uncovered her face. It was an unpleasant sight. Nonetheless, she seemed to be aware that someone was present. "But it's her." "Is this you? Butter? Please say something, baby." The words I wished for did not appear. She was still with the hairy ape. Despite my want to boast and mock her, I refrained, leaning over and spoke in a disguised voice. "I'm sorry, but Mr. Butterworth left the hospital with a nurse about an hour ago." She jerked, gasped, and choked on sugar, insisting that no butter would escape me. "He loves me." "I apologize, Mrs. Tyrell. However, you must realize that she was a really gorgeous nurse." Candy went silent. Her breathing was laborious and uneven. She twitched oddly. A nurse ran in to check the monitors, and Dr. Doolittle reappeared, ordering me to leave. I wished for the woman's death, but I did not want her to suffer in a hospital bed. Many people may see that as justice, but I felt it cruel. If she had died in the explosion as planned, I would not be dealing with this moral quandary. That was my error. So it is my obligation to solve it. Soon later, the doctor emerged, shaking his head. "I'm afraid, Mr. Tyrell, there is no hope left. They eventually terminated my wife's life support, and by the time I finished the paperwork, she had died. The hospital arranged for her cremation. 3 days later, I got her death certificate and a little box with her ashes. By then, my foot cast had been removed, and I had a new dental crown fitted, whatever that entails. Crown fabrication used to take a week, but now it can be done in the office while you wait, though at a higher expense. While I was still getting workers' compensation, they required that I stay off work until I was completely recovered. My ribs only caused problems when I laughed or sneezed, which I used to find humorous. Fortunately, I'd insured my flathead as a vintage. Initially, the insurance company declined to compensate me until the blast investigation was completed. However, they eventually supplied salvage parts to me, although at a high expense. I took certain to remove all evidence from the garage, albeit a thorough investigator could have discovered something. Nonetheless, they couldn't hold me responsible for the explosion. I was finally able to make a claim on my insurance. The garage floor looked like one of those post-airplane crash FAA images, with all of the bike parts sprawled out. Analyzing and inventorying everything took time. Approximately 20% of the parts were missing, and half of those that remained were too damaged to use. After a steam cleaning and UV dejock, the engine and transmission appeared to be in good working order. Unfortunately, the frame was beyond repair. My ankle improved day by day, so I started walking more routinely. In 2 weeks, I would have to return to work. Candy's possessions were collected and donated to Goodwill after she strangely forgot her purse at home while attending the bike exhibition. Her Alabama driver's license showed she lived in Boaz, about an hour south of Huntsville, according to MapQuest. Coincidentally, the new frame I required was in Chattanooga, though it would have been easier to send it. I opted for a road trip. I intended to acquire the frame in Tennessee and then travel to Boaz to convey Candy's ashes to her family, though I couldn't explain why, it just felt right to do. The following morning, an unexpected change of events occurred when 2 friendly state troopers arrived to plan another trip. "Mr. Tell, Their presence seemed menacing. I'm headed to Tennessee to pick up a new motorcycle frame. Should just be gone for a few days. Is there anything I should know? Not necessarily. We were just in the area. And wanted to inform you on what? The episode in which your wife died. The explosion was created by C4 explosives detonated by a remote device. Federal authorities have pieced things together, but they still lack a suspect. Where on earth does one get C4 explosives? Both of them simply shrugged. I expressed appreciation for their visit. 10 minutes later, I was on the road. In around 10 hours, I'd get my new flathead frame. The following day was bright and early. I traveled to Boaz to meet with my in-laws. Throughout the voyage, my thoughts were preoccupied with the subject of who had attacked my wife and why. What had happened to my for painstakingly built pipe bombs? I was confident the authorities would not confuse a black powder explosion with one triggered by C4 explosives. Someone definitely had a deep antipathy toward aged butter. Despite my efforts to deflect my thoughts, they inevitably returned to the same bleak reality. Eventually, I convinced myself that whomever coordinated the strike was targeting butter, with candy serving as collateral damage. The event seemed far too planned to be a coincidence. It was a long journey, especially traveling through Virginia on Route 81, which felt interminable. My emotions improved as I saw the crystal advertisements. Billboards were few in Virginia, but restaurants were prominently displayed along interstate exits. Perhaps that was what prompted my decision to go on this journey. I considered how many sliders one person could consume in 3 days. Maybe I'll find out soon. The flathead frame cost me roughly $1.800, but it came with a valid VIN number. Having a valid vehicle ID number is essential for obtaining a new title, which will substantially simplify the rebuilding procedure. I left Chattanooga just as the dust began to settle and drove till I reached Alabama. I made certain to bring the frame inside with me. I hadn't come this far to risk losing it in a motel parking lot. I stopped for breakfast just south of Huntsville, relying on the Jeeps to take me to the location on Candy's driver's license. Strangely, I found myself keeping her ashes on the seat next to me and occasionally chatting with her. Without any concrete plans in mind, I was unsure of my future moves. Humming, Sweet Home, Alabama. I approached the double-wide, hoping for a house but expecting a mobile home. As I stepped out of the truck, I grabbed chocolates. Despite the absence of anyone close, the front door remained open and a red Jeep Wrangler occupied the driveway. Fortunately, no pit bulls guarded the entry. After receiving no response at the front door, I went around to the rear where she noticed me before I did. "Can I assist you, sir?" Unexpectedly, I was surprised by a tall, heavily pregnant redhead. Her hair was more auburn than red, tumbling beyond her shoulders as she stood barefoot in a t-shirt and bib overalls, pausing to hang laundry to await my reply. "Is this Candy Sulman's home?" "Yeah, but she is not here. Can I help you with something?" Unsure how to approach the subject of her death, I stood awkwardly, handing out the box of ashes. She remained immobile with one hand on her hip. Her expression revealed nothing. It wasn't apparent if she was distressed or relieved. Nonetheless, her look indicated that she knew the cardboard box. My thoughts wandered, reliving Gretchen Wilson's Redneck Woman song video in my head. It felt like the scene had come to life. At any minute, I anticipated an ATV to blast up the slope behind the mobile home. My daydream was broken by my hostess's voice. "Why are you grinning, mister? This is not a joke." "I'm sorry. I did not intend to minimize the situation. It's simply that seeing you standing there made me think of a Gretchen Wilson video." The woman with auburn hair cast a short glance down at herself. She replied with a tiny smile on her lips. "Sorry if I had known you were coming. I would have worn a bra." We stood there for a minute, both feeling embarrassed. She was the one who broke the stillness. "Do you want to come in and have some coffee or something?" I just nodded and followed her inside. "Place it on a coffee table." I would like not have that box where we eat. Despite knowing Candy's ashes were within, I had not addressed it, and she had not confirmed it. She served me a mug of coffee with no cream or sugar offered. Not that it mattered. I didn't take them anyway. What is your name, sir? How did you come to have Candy's remains? John Tyrrell. The crematorium wasn't sure what to do with her ashes, so they ended up with me. Randy will be relieved that you brought them. Where have you come from? Pennsylvania. Candy was involved in an accident near Hershey, which manufactures chocolate bars, I explained while sipping a cup of strong coffee. Who is Randy? Randy is my brother and Candy's spouse. My quick cough revealed my surprise. Didn't you know she was married? Not at all. Another uneasy moment occurred. This unexpected information left me stunned. The name on the death certificate was Candace Tyrrell, which was difficult to explain. Where is Randy now? How can I contact him? He will be here within an hour. Please feel free to make yourself at home. I'm Rachel Evans. Would you like more coffee or maybe something stronger? Something stronger. I could not help but snicker. Are you mocking my coffee? Maybe only a bit. However, I suppose it could grow on me. Really? Are you going to stick around? I doubt Mr. Evans would appreciate it. That comment didn't go over well. Rachel became silent, refilled my coffee, and then left the room without speaking. It was evident that discussing her husband was not acceptable. I sat with my coffee, quietly querying Candy about my mistake. Naturally, I got no reaction. Rachel reappeared a few minutes later, dressed in an oversized flannel blouse and black pregnancy trousers. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail with straight bangs just above her eyes. There was a trace of makeup. However, it now seems unneeded. Since you'll be here for a bit, I thought I'd put on a bra. I did not want you to be uncomfortable. Wow, you're really trying to guilt trip me. I thought you looked great before the alteration. Rachel got another coffee and joined me. Do you mind telling me how you met my difficult sister-in-law? I would rather not. I'm feeling worried about the situation. Because you didn't realize she was married, correct? Probably. If I had known, I wouldn't be here now. Rachel breathed out a sigh. If not you, it would have been someone else. That girl was headed for danger. Didn't you like her back then? No way. I adored Candy. We grew up together. I was ecstatic when she married my brother. I was her maid of honor. Candy and I were best friends. Unfortunately, she could not remain faithful. How was the marriage? Tough. She began cheating on Randy within a year. He constantly found out and beat up whatever man she was with. Guy eventually stopped being involved with her. So she left you of that. Pretty much. Where did you run into her? Vegas? No, that does not sound nice. As I considered the circumstances, I came to the conclusion that staying was not in my best interests. Rachel, I appreciate your hospitality, but I have a long trek back home. Sorry for missing Randy. I'm confident you can fill him in. I stood up as I heard Candy's real husband speak. What do I need? Explaining. I hadn't noticed his arrival. Randy Evans was not much bigger than me. But he had a wiry physique. Ewan wrongly identifies Rachel's brother. He didn't seem like someone to provoke. Randy, meet Mr. Tyrrell. He stopped by to deliver Candy's remains. Rachel motioned to the package on the coffee table. Got any fresh coffee? Rachel's sole acknowledgement came as her brother passed by us. It felt like a scene from a horrible film. Not sure whether to sit or stand. I simply wanted to leave. Randy sat down in the leather recliner after pouring himself a cup. Sorry about the bike, man. Rachel put her cup on the kitchen table. If you would excuse me, I need to finish hanging some washing. She understood the circumstances and thought it was better to give us solitude. After he finished speaking, I realized I was missing a lot of what was going on. How did he know about my bicycle? He seemed to be anticipating a reaction, but I had none. I assumed the flat belonged to the huge guy who was with my wife. It was not until later that I realized the reality. Do you know who I am? I do now. However, I did not do so last month. I sat there, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor. Do you have any beers? Randy chuckled and rose from the lazy boy. A few moments later, I held a chili blossom in my hand. It was not your fault, Guy. I realized you were unaware. I also discovered how she manipulated you. She was a terrible woman, yet I adored her. What exactly do you mean by manipulated me? I don't believe she planned it, but she grasped the opportunity. She was good at it. I finished my beer and leaned against the back of the sofa. Damn that. I feel so foolish. I never saw it coming. Neither of us did. Neither of us did. Rachel returned with the laundry basket on her hip. She was expecting a baby in a few months. I felt slightly envious of the fortunate man who got to share her bed. Rachel, dear, could you make us some grilled cheese sandwiches? I skipped breakfast. I knew it was a little early for lunch, but I couldn't say no. Where did you find the frame? In the back of a truck in Chattanooga. Fortunately, I discovered one with a clear title. Do you require any more components? Any specifics? Why do you have any buried in your backyard? Not in my backyard, but I have a good friend around 10 miles away who has a few projects that need a new home. We could stop by if you're interested. I feel like I owe you for all the difficulty I've created. You owe me nothing. Randy. I am the one that messed things up. I do not want you to feel beholden to me. I appreciate the offer, but I won't do it out of guilt. I crashed your car, Guy. It was beautiful. And now I see you did not deserve it. Are you mad with me for being with your wife? I'm unhappy about what occurred, but it wasn't your fault. You didn't realize she was married. If you had, would you have become involved with her? I simply shook my head, signaling no. Rachel stated that lunch was ready. Randy spotted me staring at his sister at lunch. I wasn't gazing, but I did take a few moments to admire her general appearance. We swapped from beer to sweet tea at the table. I prefer unsweetened, but I drank what was served out of politeness. After lunch, Randy and I drove to Gadsden. Given the circumstances, I was relieved that our conversation went well. I ended up with a pile of parts that would have taken months to locate online. I had no notion of the cost. Randy began grilling me after he paid the bill on our way home. John, you seemed interested in my sister. What is happening on there? Randy, I assume it is your influence. Attractive ladies appear to be drawn to you. I didn't mean any disrespect. John, she's pregnant. Did you notice that was the first thing I saw? Her hubby must be fortunate. Randy stared out the window, almost mumbling. He is not alive anymore. Died in a military helicopter crash around 6 months ago. Damn. I am sad to hear that. Was it in Iraq or Afghanistan? Neither. It was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He was never deployed overseas. At least now I understand why she responded the way she did when I mentioned her husband before. What will she do? So she's staying with me till the baby arrives. After that, I am unsure. I needed someone to help around the house after Candy left, so this works for both of us. Before heading to the mobile home, I stopped to pick up a top to protect my newly obtained parts. Out of sight. Out of mind. I couldn't stop thinking about Rachel and her position. Randy and I spent the remainder of the afternoon drinking more beer. He became aware of my condition during his initial visit to the pig pit. I'm not sure how he ended up there. Candy and Butter were having a good time at the bar, making fun of my cuckolding and apparent helplessness. They thought it amusing to engage in personal actions within earshot. During his stay, I never asked him about his tactics of avoiding recognition. Originally, Randy intended to sabotage Butter's truck at the house. However, after learning about the Hershey Bike Show, he changed his plans. Unbeknownst to him, I had planned a similar plot. He discarded what he called my wimpy pipe bombs and replaced them with C4. It was then he understood I wasn't just sitting there. I remained unaware of how he found Candy and chose not to question. Similarly, I was uninformed of the source of the C4 and chose not to inquire. The less I knew, the better. Rachel made multiple trips to bring fresh beer and dispose of the empties. She easily consented. When I offered that they go out to dinner, we returned late, so I stayed at Randy's apartment. I wound up staying there for the next 3 nights. The travel back to Pennsylvania was far more delightful than the way down. The primary concern was Rachel's frequent potty breaks, which necessitated stops at various rest spots along the way. I did not realize pregnant ladies had such little bladders. Rachel delivered a beautiful baby girl less than 2 months later. Do not ask me why, but we named her Candice. I'm hoping to have the flathead engine up and running before her first birthday party. I attempted to encourage Randy to come, but he just chuckled. It appears he is avoiding Pennsylvania for some reason. Next week I'll meet with Mr. Tinto about my Luger. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, write a comment below with your thoughts on what transpired. Take care.